He is a hollow vessel, something less than human. He may have taken so much from me, but he will never get to take my voice.
You may have received A's in high school and college, but you're gonna be getting big D's in prison.
If you hadn't attacked them in their sleep, in the middle of the night, like a pedophile, Kaylee would have kicked your ass.
All right, Mr. Kohberger, you have an opportunity to make a statement if you wish to. I take it you are declining.
I respectfully decline.
Victims' families blasting Bryan Kohberger at his sentencing, and now some new bombshell court documents are being released. So what will they reveal about the Idaho 4 murders? And killer Kohberger saying just 3 words in court: "I respectfully decline," when he was asked if he wanted to give a statement. Our power panel weighs in. Plus, was there really no motive? The new evidence being revealed by Moscow police. And also coming up this hour, child killer Shanda Vander wants a new trial. We're spotlighting her next day in court with the lead prosecutor in her case. It's all coming up next for you right here on Opening Statements. Good Thursday morning to you, and welcome to Opening Statements. I'm Julie Grant. Are you ready for some coffee and some court? It is that time. We have a fantastic show planned. Grab that cup of coffee. It's time for my opening statement. Declined. He said he respectfully declined to make a statement at his sentencing. Can't say I'm surprised. That's what a low-life, selfish, sociopathic, evil loser like him would do. Not show any remorse, not give the families any apology, and not offer the court any explanation for his crimes. He declined. So now, he should be declined. I say that from now on, he should be declined in every way. We can decline to say his name. We can decline to give him any attention. And we can decline to care what happens to him in prison. He might have said he was declining respectfully to speak, but there was nothing respectful or respectable about him and what he did. He wasn't respecting those students' right to privacy. He didn't respect the sanctity of their home. He didn't respect those 4 beautiful human lives when he chose to take them. He wasn't respecting the law when he broke it and committed 4 homicides. He didn't respect the grieving families. He didn't respect the justice system, and he sure didn't respect the Idaho taxpayers when he dragged out the process for almost 3 years. And so now, it is my great hope that he won't be respected in prison. And if he demands respect, hopefully he'll be declined. May God bless and comfort the families of Madison Mogen, Kaylee Goncalves, Xana Kernodle, and Ethan Chapin. The case may be closed, but their sadness and their sorrow will forever continue. May they feel the love and the sympathy that so many people all around the world have for them, and may it bring them some measure of peace. That's my opening statement. Let me know if you like it. Right now, it's time for your daily docket.
She had a bag on her shoulder, and he grabbed her shoulder, and she tried to resist, and she ended up going down.
Okay. And then when she went down, you mentioned she went down. Are you referring she went down to the ground?
Yes.
In Washington, we've got the attempted honor killing trial resuming today after the state and the defense both arrested their respective cases on Wednesday. So we've got a charge conference starting today at noon Eastern. In Florida, we've got the in-law massacre case for defendant Shelby Neely continuing today. It's going to get underway at 9 a.m. Eastern. And in California, the accused lip filler child killer back in court this morning at 11:30 a.m. Eastern. Maya Hernandez will be arraigned today after allegedly leaving her children in a hot car while she went to get lip injections. Her 1-year-old boy was killed. Right now, let's turn to bombshell new details in the Idaho student murders case as new court documents are shedding light onto what really happened to Kaylee Goncalves, Madison Mogen, Xana Kernodle, and Ethan Chapin. Hundreds of documents were released by Moscow police within hours of Kohberger being sentenced to life in prison. The families got to face Kohberger in court, giving emotional impact statements. Court TV crime and justice correspondent Matt Johnson has more from Boise.
Julie, good morning. Powerful victim impact statements here at the Ada County Courthouse, but still no remorse or motive from the confessed killer.
All right, Mr. Kohberger, you have an opportunity to make a statement if you wish to. I take it you are declining.
I respectfully decline.
Bryan Kohberger offering no explanation for the brutal murders of 4 University of Idaho college students: Ethan Chapin, Madison Mogen, Kaylee Goncalves, and Xana Kernodle. The gallery brought to tears as the surviving roommates and the victims' families delivered emotional and painful victim impact statements. Some family members offering forgiveness, while others lashed out at the plea deal and no answers from Kohberger.
As for his sentence, we support the plea agreement. Society needs to be protected against this evil. Evil has many faces, and we now know this, but evil does not deserve our time and attention.
You will stand before our Lord and will have to answer to him over the sins you have committed in murdering our children. I am washing my hands of you and turning you over to my Lord and Savior Jesus Christ, whom vengeance belongs to.
Today, we are here to finish what you started. You tried to break our community apart. You tried to plant fear. You tried to divide us. You failed. Instead, your actions have united everyone in their disgust for you.
And Kohberger now moves to the prison system, where he begins serving 4 life sentences behind bars without the possibility of parole or appeal. Julie?
All right, thanks to Matt Johnson there for that report. Now, our Court TV team is looking over the documents right now. So this morning, our team members are poring over them, and we're all wondering, what more are we going to learn about the murders of those 4 beautiful children? Let's talk right now about some new details we already have. I want to bring in our 2 great guests to talk about it with me. Criminology expert, author, and professor Dr. Debbie Goodman is here, and high-profile criminal defense attorney and former prosecutor Michael J. Brown is here as well. Good morning to you both. We heard from the Goncalves family after the sentencing, and they shared some new details that were revealed to them about their daughter Kaylee's murder. Let's listen.
She was stabbed over 30 plus times, and she was struck, and there was quite a bit of damage to her face. So this guy's just an absolute monster.
We do know that another weapon was used on Kaylee. So we don't know what that weapon was, but
they didn't recover it.
Along with the knife was recovered, but Kaylee was not just stabbed. There was other things that happened to Kaylee.
Oh my gosh, how horrific. She wasn't just stabbed, there were other things that happened to her. We don't know what, and we don't know what weapon was used to do those other things. Dr. Debbie Goodman, let me begin with you. Your thoughts on hearing this from the family, please.
Good morning, Julie, and if I may just commend your opening statement today. Absolutely awesome and amazing. Yesterday, of course, was a variety of emotions. It was brave, it was beautiful, it was bold. And now hearing from Mr. Goncalves, we can only imagine the scope and scale of horror and terror that not only Kaylee would have endured, but the other 3 victims. So that revelation in and of itself, again, gives us a glimpse, Julie, into the absolutely demonic, evil, homicidal killer that this individual is. And unfortunately, what is likely to be revealed is going to be, again, very shocking, very startling. And I hope that if that's what the family members want, the details, then that will provide them with some type of closure, but it's going to get much worse, I think, before it gets better.
Dr. Debbie, you're so right. Thank you for that insight. Michael J. Brown, let me turn to you and share with you some new information that we have now that Moscow police released about roommate Bethany Funk. So she was one of the housemates who was able to survive this attack, was not present, didn't see Kohberger. She wasn't the one who saw him. Here's what she told police about why she and Dylan Mortensen, she's the one who saw him, why they didn't call for help and when they heard noises during the second police interview. So she said, they didn't call 911 because Bethany thought that Dylan might have been imagining what she was talking about. She said that they were both still drunk, both very groggy, that Bethany, prior to hearing the firecrackers she thought she heard Murphy, the dog, bark. She also heard what she thought was the beer pong table moving, cups falling, the table located in the living room, which is right above Bethany's bedroom. Bethany said she wasn't sure about the sequence of events, but she knows she heard Murphy bark, the beer pong table, and then the firecracker first before she called Dylan to see if she heard the same thing. Michael J. Brown, your thoughts upon hearing this new information, please.
Yeah, Julie, good morning. You know, the revelation of this new information is so horrific because now it just compounds the problems. Now you have somebody who's going to have this, unfortunately, some guilt, and the families are now going to relive it again because they're getting this new information, as we saw in that press conference. I understand the court had to, well, not had to, but issued a gag order for the purposes of getting a fair trial. How necessary that was, I don't know, but that was the judge's discretion. But now what you're going to see is the revelation of all these new details, and it just is going to compound the victimization of these poor families. And it's unfortunate, but obviously once the case is over, the gag order by law must be lifted. So now we're going to get all these new details that are not going to be pretty.
Yeah, Michael, you're right. Speaking of, let's take a look at what Corporal Brett Payne shared. This is new information we're just getting this morning about entering Maddie's bedroom. He said that he was one of the first of the Moscow police officers to go into the crime scene. This is what he saw when he went up to the third floor of the house where the bedroom was located. He said the bed was situated on the north wall. Both females, who were later identified as Maddie and Kaylee, were laying on their backs with their heads toward the east and their feet toward the west, which was also the direction of the only door to get into the room. Both Kaylee and Maddie had numerous visible stab wounds and were covered in a significant amount of blood. He also later noticed what appeared to be a tan leather knife sheath laying on the bed next to Maddie's right side. Dr. Debbie, what do you think about what the officer, the corporal rather, shared in his report about what he saw in the positioning of those two young ladies?
Right. Well, it would suggest to me, Julie, that really there was nowhere to go and no opportunity really to escape, even though it has been reported that victims fought back, and we would imagine they did their very best to overpower this monster. But there's no doubt in my mind the level of planning, premeditation, preparation that went into this. Again, the day, the time, the victimology, the location. He would have known about the vulnerability of the time at or near 4 to 4:20 a.m. when most individuals are indeed sleeping. So it's absolutely horrendous, horrific, and we can only imagine the terror of what went on, even if it were just a few minutes of the last breaths of life that this individual took away from our beautiful victims.
Mm-hmm. No, isn't that the truth? You're so right, Dr. Debbie. Michael J. Brown, when I think about that officer spotting the knife sheath, I keep thinking about the good police work and how they were able to collect it so carefully that they got that little bit of DNA on the snap, huh?
Big deal, Julie. And you know that, listen, everybody likes to criticize the police. They didn't do this, they didn't do that. But in this particular case, they did good police work. They did their circumstantial evidence. They built their blocks to build the house. And I think ultimately that's what led to him pleading guilty and avoiding a trial. And that was a big deal that is a big deal for the victims' families, and that they didn't have to endure that. And I think that was in large part to the police work, and they need to get credit. And I know some of the victims' families acknowledge that in court, and I'm sure that went appreciated by the local law enforcement.
Yeah, and appreciate you saying it here. Certainly want to echo those sentiments, Michael. Those law enforcement workers. They worked so long, countless hours, we know, weeks and months, and to solve this heinous crime, and what a great job they did in bringing justice for those victims. So a big shout out to them. Dr. Debbie Goodman, big shout out to you. It was so great to have you yesterday on such an important day, and then again this morning as a follow-up. I know we need to let you get to class, but we'll be talking more about this case soon. Thank you so much. And Michael J. Brown is coming with us. Please do the same at home. When we come back, here's what's next on Opening Statements.
He is a hollow vessel, something less than human. A body without empathy, without remorse. He chose destruction. He chose evil.
The key moments from Killer Kohberger's sentencing. So which victim impact statement left the biggest impact on you? And convicted child killer Shanda Vander back in court tomorrow. She wants a new trial. We're breaking it down with the lead prosecutor from her case.
Patriarch of the Adelson family gets arrested.
Donna Adelson is facing charges of murder, the death of her former son-in-law, Dan Markell.
Prosecutors say a bitter child custody battle was the motive for the murder-for-hire plot. Now that Donna has turned into a defendant, what's next for the Adelson clan?
Now that the ship is really sinking fast, blood doesn't matter that much.
The Matriarch Mastermind Murder Trial. Live coverage begins this August on Court TV.
You are so beyond human. You're definitely a demon from hell. I truly wish your punishment would be the same death you inflicted on our kids. But I think you will meet some new friends in prison who will be there just to help you. Thumbs up.
Family members of those 4 beautiful University of Idaho students got to say their piece before the defendant was ordered to serve 4 life sentences without parole. Loved ones of Madison Mogen, Kaylee Goncalves, Xana Kernodle, and Ethan Chapin all spoke out, many of them speaking through their tears. And it was Kaylee Goncalves' family that really didn't hold back.
Quick message from our youngest daughter. Aubrey wanted to say, you may have received A's in high school and college, but you're going to be getting big D's in prison.
You want the truth? Here's the one you'll hate the most. If you hadn't attacked them in their sleep, in the middle of the night, like a pedophile, Kaylee would have kicked your ass. Thank you.
Thank you.
I love that. That deserved a standing ovation. Now tell us, which victim impact statements do you believe had the biggest impact on the day, on the defendant, maybe on you? Let's talk about it. I got 2 great guests standing by to help me out with this. I'm going to bring them in now. High-profile trial attorney John Phillips is with us, and the owner of Black Ops Private Investigations. He's a former Army intelligence officer and NYPD detective, Manuel Gomez. Great to have you both on the program this morning. All right, so biggest impact on you for whatever reason. John Phillips, would you start us off, please?
You know, the justice is spelled one way, it's defined many different ways, right? You get the criminal justice, you get the civil justice, the sentencing, you know, along the way. This is where the families get their own justice. And you know, we tend to go through our clients' victim impact statements, and like the big D comment, I would have said, please don't, you know, that it doesn't add anything. But they were all powerful. I'm not going to choose one over the other because they, you know, they all come from the heart. They all come from a place of immense pain that's existed, you know, day after day, no answers. And this is their time to finally get to confront the person that did this and ruin their families. So, you know, kudos to all the families. Sentencing is one of the hardest days for everybody. Both sides are super tense. You can feel, you know, the electricity in the room. And, you know, kudos to these victims for standing up and speaking out.
Yes, yes, John. They were all so brave, so courageous. That is not easy to do. And hopefully in some way, maybe in some small way, it was a bit cathartic for them. I sure hope that. Manuel Gomez, your thoughts. What really spoke to you the most and why, please?
Well, what spoke to me the most is, well, first of all, I want to say kudos to the police department. Excellent police work done in this entire case. The second, what spoke to me the most was one of the documents that was released by the Moscow police, which was the autopsy reports. He stabbed Xana over 50 times, Kaylee in the face over 20 times. This man deliberately tried to kill their beauty. And he reminded me of David Berkowitz with his stoic look in court. David Berkowitz, to some extent, did the same thing. He used to shoot women and then shoot them in the face as well. That's exactly what he did. And one of the parents talked about getting a life sentence. I am so disappointed in this case that the judge let this plea go in and not let him go to trial and get the death sentence. The judge saw the atrocities done in this case, and he still let this guy live for the next 40 years because we're going to be paying for him in jail. He should not be alive. This was the perfect candidate for the death sentence.
Manuel, I agree with you that he was a perfect candidate for a death sentence. I couldn't agree with you more. And it's interesting, and for anybody wondering, legally, the judge could reject the plea agreement. Legally, he could. And we know that it's up to the state of Idaho to choose to seek the death penalty. So they were largely in control in choosing to say, okay, we'd rather be safe than sorry and remove this from the prosecution in exchange for an agreement on those life sentences. And here we are. He's going away, from what we understand at Court TV, to one of the worst prisons in America. So thank goodness for that. Let's talk a bit about this defendant and his interaction with the court. The judge gave him a chance to speak, which we knew was coming. We know every defendant, Manuel, John, you both know this, every defendant is afforded that opportunity in court at the time of sentencing to say their piece. Let's listen to what Kohberger said.
Does the defense have evidence to present today?
No evidence.
All right. Defense wish to make argument today.
We do not wish to make argument. Mr. Kohberger, along with his legal team, is prepared for the court to enter judgment.
All right, Mr. Kohberger, you have an opportunity to make a statement if you wish to. I take it you are declining.
I respectfully decline.
Okay, you gentlemen know how I feel about it, but we want to hear how you feel about it. Manuel Gomez, your thoughts, please.
I feel that, like I said, he actually got excited at one point in the court when I saw the roommate say, I didn't know what happened. And you'll see Kohberger turn his head, and literally it was a level of excitement. I mean, that he didn't realize that the girl didn't realize that they were all dead. And, you know, this guy not saying anything, he was sitting there basking, enjoying it, enjoying the pain and suffering of it. Like I said, this was a straight up monster. And the sad, unfortunate thing is, Julie, we're not safe still, because we also have another serial killer out there, Travis Decker. And we also have another serial killer that has left 13 bodies along the New England coast. So people, this is a wake up call. You need to look around, and you need to get something that will protect your home. Preferably something like a little dog or something like that that will alert you to someone coming in your house.
Mm-hmm. Manuel, you know, we love talking to you about ways we can stay safer, and there's nothing wrong with being hyper vigilant. And you're right. I mean, Kohberger is the perfect example of a monster living among us. Like, who would think a PhD student, you know, just looks so nerdy and like, you know, who's he going to harm? And look what he did, the devastation he caused. My goodness, anybody is capable of anything. We all know that in the kind of work that we do. John Phillips, I want to ask you, please, about his statement, those 3 words, I respectfully decline. What did you think when you heard him do that?
First off, shout out to Scout and Bailey, 2 little dogs that alerted us this morning at 6 a.m. when the water guy, came to our door. Like, Manuel's right. You do need alerts. You do need alarms. Like Ring doorbell is $1 billion business. Everybody, needs more, watching out for themselves, and we have to watch out for each other. But going to the question, I respectfully decline. I could say this is the coward's way out. I could say, he owed more to these families. Usually in a sentence, you do try to, at least apologize a little bit. You find some words to craft. They didn't want any of it. They just wanted to get through this. And the victims were owed more. And it is disappointing. There is no respect in anything he did. There was no humility. There was no, kindness. He wasn't saving the court time. He wasn't saving the victims, his own defense. He was continuing all the way through to victimize the victims, and shame on him.
Yeah, shame on him. You're so right, John. And I love you use the word coward. When I was thinking about my opening statement last night, I had done one earlier this week on that coward Stephen Stearns. And I was thinking how, boy, it's like the week of cowards here in the world of true crime and trial. 2 monsters who were predators, and in different situations, but both predators and both cowards. You're so right. Manuel Gomez, one day we'll have to do a segment with you on safety in general, because this is one of those things. I think everybody is still walking away feeling so fearful, and like it could happen to anyone. And these children just unfortunately happen to be the victims here. So thank you so much for weighing in. Manuel Gomez, you've got cases to work, your company Black Ops, Private Investigations. Thank you so much. We'll see you soon. John Phillips is coming with us. Please do the same at home. When we come back, we'll talk about the motive, or should I say lack thereof. Police, prosecutors, they say they don't know what the motive was. They say perhaps there was no motive. And
you look like that when you put him in the bathtub?
remember that moment? I'm sure you can never forget it, when Shanda Vander feigned getting sick on the stand when she saw pictures of her son Timothy. Well, now she wants a brand new trial. Well, guess what? We've got a very special guest coming up. The lead prosecutor on the case, Matt Roberts, joins us live next.
There are leg irons discovered in your home. Were you aware of those?
I was aware that Paul had them. You actually could look on my Amazon. Paul had the option to do payment on the Amazon as well as mine, and Paul had actually ordered those under his account.
You heard Paul talk about plastic ties. What was that about?
I honestly don't remember.
Okay.
I don't know why we would order. I mean, I saw the ties. I don't remember ordering them. I don't know what happened there.
Whose idea was it to get hot sauce and to administer it to your son?
The idea was originally Paul's.
That was convicted killer Shanda Vander at her trial, blaming her son Paul for the abuse that her son Timothy endured before his death. This morning, we're shining our spotlight on Timothy and his mother's efforts to get herself a new trial. So this defendant was sentenced to life in prison without parole for the death of her son Timothy, which occurred back in 2022. He was 15 years old at the time, 5'8", weighed only 69 pounds. At his autopsy, 69 pounds. Think about that. Here's what the judge said to Shanda Vander when the trial was ending.
That's the picture I want people to remember of your son. You took that from him. You took it from him. For what reason, I don't know. Mr. Johnson's right. There is something broken in you. I don't know what that is, but it doesn't negate what you did here. So, besides remembering him like that, I'm not going to let you hide in the darkness anymore. People know what you are now. They know what you did. You're not able to hide in the darkness anymore.
That's right. Everything was brought to light. Well, now this woman, who's a lawyer, by the way, wants a new trial. She's claiming that she was in a catatonic state during her trial and that her lawyer didn't provide effective counsel. Let's talk about those things with the man who prosecuted Shanda Vander Ark. Did a brilliant job with the trial. He's become one of our legal analyst guests, and we're so fortunate for that. He's the chief trial attorney in the Muskegon County, Michigan District Attorney's Office, Matt Roberts. Matt, good morning to you. Would you share with us the latest developments? This hearing is set to happen tomorrow with her, and we talked a little bit about it last week when we got the news, but now I understand you have more of a picture about how this hearing is going to go and what witnesses may be giving some testimony.
Yeah, good morning, Julie. It's great to be here again. Yes, we do have some interesting developments in the case because, as you've indicated, the claim here, or one of the claims, is ineffective assistance of counsel. That waives attorney-client privilege effectively for the case. So our anticipation is tomorrow that we will be taking some testimony, or certainly be prepared to take testimony from Mr. Johnson, Ms. Vander Ark's lawyer, as well as a social worker from the public defender's office who worked with Mr. Johnson on this case to negate those claims that she is making about being catatonic and not being fairly represented. So we do anticipate that testimony coming in tomorrow. We've got an excellent brief filed by our stellar our stellar appellate attorney, Heather Bloomquist, who will be handling most of the argument tomorrow. So we're looking forward to bringing more of the truth about what happened in this case out to light.
Which will be fantastic, because this is one of those crimes, as you know, Matt, that was done in secrecy. I think that's one of the things so startling about this, when you hear, my gosh, how did this child starve to death? I mean, literally starved to death. I mean, it was just horrific what happened to him. The brutal ice baths, the forcing of the hot sauce, all of those awful things, being locked up in tiny spaces. I mean, it just was brutal, the life this child was forced to live. And do you think that there will be anything coming out that perhaps we didn't get to hear at trial because, I don't know, perhaps was it privilege or something that couldn't come in because of an evidentiary ruling? Might there be something new that we learned that's even more horrific than the facts already out there?
Well, it's difficult to imagine a scenario getting more horrific than what we've already heard. I think we brought out most of the details about what took place. Tomorrow is going to be more about the defense in this case and whether or not, again, the claim being that Mr. Johnson was ineffective. Certainly our position is that he was very effective, did the best he could under the circumstances. There may be some testimony and maybe some reports coming out about her mental state, which were not introduced at trial. But frankly, the reason for that is that they've indicated that there is no mental illness, that she was not meeting the criteria for being insane or not criminally responsible. So it was not ineffective for Mr. Johnson to not present a defense that just simply didn't exist. So those are the details that I think may be coming out tomorrow. And the secrecy part of it that you talked about is absolutely right, that everybody says, well, why wasn't this found out? And the efforts that she went to keep all this secret are just absolutely shocking. But explain why people didn't know, why he wasn't in school, why he wasn't going to the doctor, why even the neighbors and even to a certain extent the grandparents didn't know what his condition was.
Wow, right. And she was diabolical, Matt. I mean, really, I see her as just diabolical. How very smart. Obviously, she didn't get into law school being stupid. Very smart woman, and seemed to really manipulate everybody, the whole situation. Her other son that we know was part of the prosecution. Thankfully, you were able to get his witness testimony in order to convict her. I want to ask you about one of those moments, if we can go back to it, and if you don't mind sharing some more of what you were able to see that we didn't get to see at trial. So at trial, when you showed her the pictures of Precious Timothy and what his body looked like, she got sick, and we all remember seeing that. And I think it was feigned. I think she was trying to get the Academy Award. That's just me. I don't know what the jury thought, but you were able to see some other instances with her when she looked at the photos and had a very different reaction. So let's go back to that moment in time now with her on the stand first.
You testified that you gave Timothy a warm bath the night before he passed away, that last night, July 5th. Do you recall that?
Yes, sir.
This is hours before he dies, right?
Yes, sir.
He looked like that when you put him in the bathtub?
Vander Ark, do we have a trash can?
I did. I placed a trash can.
Yeah, I see. All right. Would you like the beard removed?
These were just
Right. Please rise.
Oh, my gosh. Matt, and may I just compliment you? That was a devastating cross that you did on her. It was awesome. And that reaction there, you told us this before, but please, it's worth a repeat for any of our wonderful viewers who didn't see your last interview on this. What was her reaction the first time she got to see those pictures of her son?
Well, the week before, we'd had a motion to keep some of those pictures out filed by the defense in the case, and she was presented with all of those pictures and literally had no reaction. Certainly not to the extent that, and I agree, I think in hindsight this was completely fake, but no reaction whatsoever. So this notion that somehow now being presented with the pictures causes her to, fake vomit or really vomit or whatever you want to call it, was just silly. And it was all organic at the time because she had said that, in her original statement that she didn't give him a bath, and it wasn't until direct examination that she said, well, I gave him a warm bath, and that this was kind of on the fly as much as anything to say, okay, well, let's show her the pictures and see what her reaction is. And I wasn't expecting it, but the jury certainly didn't buy it. That's for certain.
Right. Well, and that was awesome. I mean, and I appreciate you letting us in kind of the inside baseball, that right there, that moment that you had, the moment of the trial, it was on the fly. Just, you're so seasoned, you were able to say, oh, okay, you want to say this? Well, then I'm going to confront you with that. And here we go. And you got her. Matt Roberts, outstanding work. Keep fighting the good fight, and best of luck to you and your colleagues in the appellate division in your office as you proceed with tomorrow's hearing. We will be covering it, and we'll look forward to speaking with you again soon. We're going to hit a break, my friends. Go refill your coffee. When we come back, we're going to talk about some new evidence in the Idaho 4 student murders case. Police are saying there was no identifiable motive. Prosecutors agree. We'll talk about that when we return.
Two parents face a jury
over the attempted murder of their own daughter. Court TV takes you inside the trial that's torn a family apart.
The attempted honor killing trial. Live coverage today, only on Court TV.
Now for what's tipping the scales of justice, hundreds of documents released by police after the sentencing for defendant Bryan Kohberger. And we know more information is coming. Our team here at Court TV is pouring through the documents right this minute, and we've gleaned some things already. And largely, what we've seen is law enforcement describing the steps that they took to gather all of the evidence to lead them back to this killer. What may be stunning to some is that it's still unclear what motivated the killings.
You said earlier you couldn't identify a reason the house was targeted. Do you have a motive?
We don't. And I would add that going through this whole investigation, I'd probably say it's easier than it was for Bill's offices. We were focused on a task. We had a task to do, and it was discovering evidence and interviewing folks and that sort of thing. So the motive necessarily doesn't play a part in that, right? Obviously it can, but we were just focused on getting the job done in the correct way as best we could.
So let's talk more about this. And will we ever be able to ascertain if there was a motive behind these killings? Let's bring in our legal eagles, Michael J. Brown and John Phillips. I've been so anxious to have this conversation because I've had it off air with some of my colleagues, and just based on my personal experience, I had one case where we didn't know what the motive was, and it was very troubling to me. And I remember talking to the lead detective, and he's like, "Julie, you have to just resign yourself to, like, we're just not going to know. We just won't know." However, you still have all the evidence to prove everything you need to prove, and the guy is still behind bars. So let's talk about this. Have you both, in your experiences, I'm curious, ever had a case with no motive that was identifiable? Michael, let me start with you, please.
Julie, I have. You know, most cases you are able to point your finger at something. It's a love triangle. Maybe there's a gas station robbery and they're taking money. Maybe there's a business relationship that went sour. So most cases you do see that. But over my career, I have seen cases where It's simply a power, control, thrill to kill type of situation where, I mean, that's a motive, but it's not the motive that we're looking for, which is some reason or rationale to commit that crime. But it happens. I don't think it's the rule. I think it's the exception. But clearly it does happen. And I think, unfortunately, in this case, they're going to dig deep. They're never going to find anything other than a psychological whack job, for lack of a better word, a guy who's talking about power and thrill, and it's all about him and is a narcissist, and there's no rationale other than power and control. And I think that's what we're going to end up with on this case.
I think you're right. Great analysis, Michael. Thank you. John Phillips, same question to you. Throughout your career, have you ever seen one of those cases with no motive?
I mean, again, I'll echo Michael. It is rare. It does happen. And you know, it depends on your definition, not to Bill Clinton this, but it depends on your definition of motive, right? Like, we handle a lot of police cases, and in police cases, you don't have police that necessarily want to kill somebody. There's just systemic issues, the amygdala, how African Americans are treated in American justice, how things escalate. You know, the motive is kind of vague there, which I think is why jurors have such problems with those cases. Plus, they want to side with police. But sometimes you just got to let it go. You know, and here you do have somebody that just is one of the bottom 1% of all humans on Earth. That I don't think a reasonable mind could understand his mind anyway. You know, I mean, we're all operating within reason and accountability, and some people are just, for lack of a better way to put it, animals.
Right. And no offense to any of the animals watching the show. We have lots of, doggies and kitties at home that, no, I know what you mean. I've had people say to me, why'd you call that guy an animal? I say, well, we have to abide by FCC regulations. I'm kind of limited in the language I could use, so animal's a good word. John, great points. I want to show you and Michael a couple things that we were able to pull from the documents. Corporal Brett Payne was one of the first Moscow police officers to go to the crime scene. When he entered Xana Kernodle's bedroom, this is what he saw. He saw a large amount of blood on the floor and around Xana as well. Numerous wounds on her arms, her hands, her face. He could tell it had been caused by an edged weapon. She was next to the west wall, or next to the west wall rather, a small white nightstand which appeared to have been moved as it was pushed against the wall. He said at an odd angle, and blood on the nightstand as well. He said he went into Ethan, the area where Ethan was, and he could not clearly see the wounds to Ethan's head and neck, but could see a very large amount of blood on the bed as well. Appeared to be blood spatter on the wall next to Ethan's head and his neck. Noticed 2 large cuts to the back of his legs. The wounds appear to be deep tissue wounds. Difficult, though, to see there with his body position. Xana stabbed 50 times, we understand. Michael J. Brown, what did you think when you heard that?
Julie, it goes back to what we were talking about: power, thrill to kill, control. When I looked at him in the sentencing, he reminded me of Nicholas Cruz on the Parkland murders. It's that stare, it's that look, it's really this narcissism off the charts times 100, that the only person on the face of the earth is him. There's no remorse. I'm glad he didn't speak. There was nothing he would have said that would have helped anybody on this type of case. I am glad he didn't speak, and I'm glad the victims were able to get up there and say what they had to say. And to some extent, it's a catharsis type of situation where they're able to just get their emotions out. So I'm glad he didn't open his mouth, quite frankly.
Right, Michael. Yeah, I don't think we would have liked anything that he would have said. And he'd lie. How can we trust him? Good riddance. I wish we had more time to talk. We adore you both on this show. Michael J. Brown, John Phillips, thank you both so much for your time and analysis. We'll look forward to you back here next Thursday morning. Get off to court, go win those cases. We'll see you soon. When we come back after this break, my friends, we're going to look at some unaired footage from the case in Washington.